I'm Peter Lampl. I'm founder and chair of the Sutton Trust. I'm also chair of the Education Endowment Foundation. So, good morning to you all. I'm delighted to welcome you all today about this very important subject. This is the launch of our campaign to improve social mobility through high-quality apprenticeships. The reason that we're doing this is that we, and I think I speak for everyone at the Sutton Trust, feel very passionately about this program. So, just for your information, we have just been looking at internships, and we did a lot of research on internships. We now have a bill going through the House of Commons. I think it's fair to say beyond 4 weeks, there are very few people not paying interns. This is a big deal. It's a social mobility issue in that kids who can afford it do unpaid internships. So we're saying after 4 weeks, you've got to pay it. And I think a combination of lobbying, research, has moved that along. Now listen, when I was 25, which was not so long ago, I mean, some of the people know differently, but I worked for Siemens in Munich as a consultant. I was a typical Oxford graduate, mild-mannered, modest, humble, deferential. And I worked with Siemens employees who had not been to university, had come up through their apprenticeship program. They blew me away with their talent. And after that, at that very young age, I was sold on apprenticeships. Years later, I was an employer in Germany. We had a number of apprentices on the payroll. And let me tell you, I walked in and had all these people on the payroll getting paid approximately half. And I said, what the hell are these people doing? And they said, well, you know, that's part of the deal. We work with apprenticeships. And by the way, they're really good value because we pay them half. And a lot of them will become our farm team. You know, a lot of them come back. So that was an interesting thing. And the other thing I want to mention, which is kind of, when you say apprenticeships in this country, you're talking engineering, technical. That's what people think. In Germany and Switzerland, they think everything. Marketing, business policy, production, finance. In fact, the head of, I think, the biggest Swiss bank, you will know, is an apprentice. He never went to university. These guys were the backbone of the company. We funded at the Sutton Trust a study of apprenticeships around the world. No surprise, Germany and Switzerland came top. Now, for every 1,000 employees in Germany, they have 4 times as many apprentices than we have. According to the OECD, they are also of significantly higher quality. And you've heard this before. In Germany, you have parity of esteem between the apprentice route and the university route. In fact, we had a company, medium-sized company with a few hundred employees, that had no graduates. Everything there was apprentices. They did a damn good job. The company was very successful. Now, I know we can't simply replicate the German experience, but I think we should be doing a hell of a lot more about it. You know, people go on fact-finding tours. I went on one 3 years ago. You look around for 3 days and you say, okay, isn't this great? You come back, nothing happens. I don't know if this is happening, but why aren't people going to Germany for 6 months, a year, really figuring out what they do and trying to bring it back? Why aren't Germans coming over here and working with us getting this going? I mean, it seems to me we really need to learn from the German system because we have a huge problem, which I'll come into in a minute. I was going to add that I'm not sure that will be possible in post-Brexit Britain, but that's another story. Now, coming back to the UK experience, we did some work on this. A young person with a higher level apprentice earns more over a lifetime than the average graduate. Think about that. You earn more as an apprentice. And that's because they earn while they learn, they come out with no debt, and they have qualifications the marketplace values because they've been doing an apprenticeship. And by the way, they don't have to look for a job because they're already in one. We reckon there are only about 7,000 high-level apprenticeships for young people in this country, and there are about 325,000 kids go through degrees. I mean, that is the imbalance we're talking about. And, you know, to come on to this whole thing, I mean, I think the whole university thing has gotten out of hand. Kids are coming out with 50,000 plus worth of debt. 25% after 3 years are not in graduate employment. You know, it's, would you like fries with your hamburger, sir? I mean, a lot of those kids are doing that kind of stuff. So, not that I'm against that stuff. Sutton Trust, we put 2,500 kids through summer schools at the best universities in the country. So I'm very big on that. I'm just saying they shouldn't all be, 51% now going to university. I think it's too many. If we can get this high level, degree level apprentice off the ground, that should make a difference. Now the problem is what I've said. If I'm coming out of a council estate and I want to make it in life, I've got to go to university. There's nowhere else to go. These apprenticeships are so small, you can't get in them. I think that's wrong. I think kids should have a genuine choice. Now, we just commissioned some polling, which is, I guess, being released today. Right, Hillary, if you're there? Yeah, some polling this morning. I'll just give you a couple of points. Basically, opinions are that apprenticeships are second best. There's sort of a feeling here. If you're doing an apprentice, you failed at something. You know, it's kind of that you couldn't do anything else. 2/3 of young people in our survey said they would be interested in doing an apprenticeship. However, only 1 in 5 teachers said they would advise or recommend their most able pupils to consider an apprenticeship. So in survey after survey, we have found teachers to be a big issue. Now, all these needs to change. And I've got a few things. I mean, the biggest issue is employers. They need to get on board. And they need to have the attitude that the Germans do, that these guys are very productive in the workforce. They're costing very little. They develop relationships with the university. I mean, we work with the University of Aachen, and as a result, the relationship, they design stuff with us. It creates bonds between relationships and business, which we could do a lot more of. Universities are hard to get on board. Certainly the Russell Group, they kind of, we're much too precious to want to do this kind of stuff. Now, I'll just mention a couple of, obviously, some good things. Jaguar, Land Rover and Warwick is a classic one. I think what you need is a good university with a good company. That is supposed to be harder to get into than the top universities. And then we recently launched, with the BBC, an apprenticeship program for them. So we're talking about 50 kids, 18-year-olds, going into the BBC and hopefully going all the way to the top, which I think is a very good sign that the BBC is prepared to do that. I think it's all about giving options for our young people. Hey, listen, I'm really looking forward to hearing what our speakers have got to say, because I don't have the answers, so I want to see whether someone else has got the answers. I think if we can get this apprentice thing right, two things. One is, I think it's a great way to skill the workforce. And secondly, it would become a huge vehicle for social mobility. Thank you.